so let's get started. I want to respect everyone's time, so we'll kick off here. Welcome to week 4 and the final week tier of Digital Guerrilla Marketing webinar. Some of you have been with us the whole time, so thank you. Some of us, you popped in for a week here and there. I am Molly Onaga of WormWood SEO and have been over here for about 10 years, SEO and social media specialist. I think you should probably know my face and the other faces by now, but I'll introduce them in a few minutes as well. We're excited to have you. Basically, a quick recap, what we're doing here is trying to get you packed and essential information so that you can kind of come out of what's been a really tough time for a lot of businesses with a strong digital footprint and with some actionable items that you can really put to use, not just in this time, but going forward. That's what we're here for. So reminder, we are recording. So your webinar recordings, your presentation slides, your success checklist and personal assistance, you can find those all at digitalguerrillamarketing.com. At the end here, we're gonna give you the password so that you can grab those successfully. And we will also go into a little bit of what the personal assistance is. We've touched on those, but really it's kind of an offer and a way to help from each of our companies. Again, helping you kind of kickstart some of these actionable items and things that, small or big, they can really make a big difference. So we really want you to take advantage of them. We hope you do. And we'll tell you, like I said, exactly how to get those. It's kind of a thank you for being with us for 4 weeks and just a way that we can kind of give back and help. So where have we been so far? Yes, there we go. Okay, so phase 1, we talked in week 1, Chris talked about building trust online, the importance of reviews and reputation management. The second week, I talked to you guys about how to update your digital business card on some key platforms. Last week, we heard from John on how to kickstart your digital marketing in regards to AdWords and PPC. And this week, the last week, we're gonna talk about stepping up your game. And Jessica will expand on this, but basically we're going to be talking to you about how to make sure that your website is properly optimized so that Google and people are going to be finding you. It's a really big and important kind of last piece of the puzzle. So we saved kind of a big section for the grand finale. You won't be disappointed, I promise you. And so on the panel today, like I just mentioned, we have Jessica Lorenzen. She has been with WormWood and a lovely colleague of mine for about 5 years. She's got a kind of varied background in PR and marketing. And when it comes to kind of the understanding and execution of a lot of the technical SEO stuff that gets really tricky, that's like her bread and butter. She's exceptional at it. So this is exactly who you want talking to you about this stuff today. I will turn it over to her in a few slides, but our second panelist should look familiar, Chris Lolini, founder and CEO of Reputation Igniter. Again, as far as reputation and kind of review programs go, after a decade almost of being in the industry, we have found nothing better. Chris is truly like a brilliant mind in this area. So that's it. You're a brilliant mind in this area, but thanks for being here, Chris. Last but not least, we got John Howard. I say the same about him after almost a decade in this business when it comes to AdWords and kind of that sector. He's the best to work with. The product is reliable, the company is great, John especially is fantastic. So you'll hear from each of them a little bit today. And so that I don't take up any more time, I will turn it over to Jess to kick off.
Thanks, Malls. Hi, everybody. Good to finally get a chance to really dive into some more advanced parts of digital marketing. So the last few weeks, really we've been talking about a lot of your digital presence outside of your website. But your website really is an integral and key part to your digital marketing footprint and how you communicate who you are as a company and as a brand. And there's obviously kind of the elements of how you talk about yourself. But what I really want to get into in this is kind of some of the technical aspects, so that not only do you have a really well optimized site, but a site that potential clients or customers want to be on. And again, you've seen this graph or this graphic, and a lot of what we were talking about before were the business signals, the off-page link building, the directories, the digital business cards. But there still are two large portions of this pie that do have to do with your website. First are the on-page signals, so the presence of your NAP, the name, address, phone number, which Molly talked about a lot in second week. And then also kind of the behavioral signals too on the site. So are people clicking through to your site? Are they interacting with your site? Are they clicking to call? You know, those types of things are signals to Google that you are providing a hub of information that people want to use and interact with. So that's what I'm really going to get into this week. And boiling it down, I mean, to be honest, there's hundreds of different, technical elements to a website, but I'm not going to bore you with all of those. I really just want to kind of drill it down into 5 different crucial elements that really help to get your site Google friendly, to be quite honest. So we'll go through this list one at a time. First will be site speed. Second will be a mobile friendly site. Third is website architecture. Fourth, before we get into kind of the content of the site, I'm going to kind of scale back a second and talk about keyword research and why that's important for the site itself. And then fifth, and kind of the grand finale part of this, is the optimized content. Parts of this, especially number 5, are going to get kind of detailed. So don't worry about trying to take notes. Again, all of this is going to be on the hub for you to download. There's checklists throughout this presentation. So what I'm really going to try and do is talk at a high level. And then you can kind of go back through and look at the checklist and, whether you need us to, help you with that, or, your web developer too. If you have a web developer, can help with a lot of this stuff too, like the site speed. So with that, I'm going to dive into this. So let's talk about site speed first. With any user experience on the site, the faster your web page loads, the more likely they are going to be to stay on the page. People look down on sites that take forever to load, because in this world right now, people want information instantaneously. They don't have the time or the patience to wait for your website to load. So even 5 seconds doesn't sound like a lot of time. To consumers, it is. When your site goes from having to load in 1 second to 5 seconds, the probability of a bounce is 90%. And same, and you start to get from 1 second to 10 seconds. Again, that doesn't seem like, as we're talking, a lot of time, but that probability of people just saying, not worth it, I don't want to wait for this site to load, increases 123%. So it's really important. And to clarify too, bounce means people who come to your site and leave immediately. Like, they don't even wait for the site to load. They're just kind of done with it. So as you can see from a user experience, that's really important. Secondly, it's important to Google too, because Google really tries to write their algorithms around your site being user friendly. So one of the things that they know is that if you have a slow loading site, consumers don't want to be on it. Thus, they're going to either reward you or penalize you accordingly. So you can take a look at this graph, and as the faster your load speed, on average, the higher your position. And as your load speed starts to increase, the lower down the rankings you're going to get. So it's very much a correlation between the user experience and also how Google sees your website. So really, what can you do to help improve your site speed? Again, I'm not going to get too bogged down in the details of this, but we're here to help explain. And again, this is the type of thing too, especially a web developer has a lot of understanding of this too, is so number 1, using the CDN. So delivering your images from an offsite platform onto your site. It just helps to decrease the size of your site. Optimizing your images, turn off any unused plugins or widgets. Again, they just can overload your site with a lot of code. And if you are on WordPress, which I know a lot of businesses are these days, there is a plugin called W3 Total Cache, which can help to increase the speed of your site. Okay, number two here, we're going to talk about being mobile friendly. As you know, we are on the go more. We are using our phones more. We're searching more. If you're in the car and you are looking for a restaurant that's nearby, you're going to be using your mobile device rather than a desktop. And as you can see in this graph, around 2004 is really where the number of desktop searches and mobile searches came together. And since then, it's just taken off exponentially in terms of how many people are on their mobile devices, doing local search queries. And, if we look even bigger, even shopping on their mobile phone too. At the same time, desktop has slowly started to go down too. It's not as if desktop isn't still important, but mobile is really where it's at. This is where people are spending most of their time. And because of that too, much like site speed, Google kind of has rewritten their algorithms accordingly. So previously, when desktop was kind of the majority of the time that people were spending their time in searching, Google would crawl not only your desktop site, but then also your mobile site and rank accordingly. So whether you're on mobile, they would crawl your mobile site and rank you differently on a mobile device than on your desktop. And a lot of times you can tell, this was back in the day when URLs on mobile were a lot of times m.yourdomain.com. That was kind of a key to Google that this was the mobile site. So, that would help them to understand, okay, we need to be crawling this site for mobile queries. Now, because so many people are using mobile and people are still using desktop, they've switched to what they call a mobile first index. And this is where they are crawling your mobile site to determine where you rank both on mobile phones and on desktops. So it's really important to make sure that you have a site that is very mobile friendly, because that is going to determine your ranking, everywhere. And luckily this day and age, there's a lot of platforms out there that are responsive, meaning that any change you make on it on the desktop is going to change automatically for your mobile site too, in a way that is very crawl friendly. So you're not having to update a desktop site and a mobile site. And again, all the major platforms, WordPress, Squarespace, Shopify, all of them are responsive. So a lot of times you don't have to worry about this as much, but it's always a good check to make sure that you are that your site is built in a responsive way. And there's tools out there that you can run. Google even provides them themselves, so you can see that you are mobile friendly. But again, if you're on one of these platforms, you're most guaranteed to be. Okay, third, before getting into the major part of this, the actual content, I want to talk about website architecture. And this is really important because website architecture helps Google to understand the importance of different pages within your site. So the further away you get from your homepage, which is the hub of your website, the less kind of authority Google puts on that page. So let's say you have a homepage, let's say you're a plumber in this situation. Obviously, one of your major categories is going to be plumbing. So you want to make sure that the first page, one of the first main pages outside of the homepage, talks about plumbing. From there, you might have some other kind of topics that fall under plumbing, but aren't kind of the major overarching category or subject. For example, like emergency plumbing, plumbing repair, plumbing installation. Those are three very distinct services, but maybe are not quite as important as the overarching plumbing subject. So again, it's a well-organized site, makes it easy for Google to crawl. One of the kind of best practices is if it takes you more than 3 clicks from the home page to get to another page, Google will almost ignore that page. It just becomes so diluted in the structure of the website that they just kind of, obviously this is not important to the business, and so it's not going to be important to the consumer, so we're not going to pay attention to it. And this kind of reflects that. So again, if we were to take what we had, the overarching plumbing, category, and then you went into emergency plumbing. And then from there, you could link to plumbing repair. And then from plumbing repair, you can click to plumbing installation. By the time you get to plumbing installation, it's so diluted in the setup of the site that Google's not going to pay attention to that. So if somebody is searching for plumbing installation, you're not going to show up. So again, the very architecture of the site is incredibly important to making sure that you're showing up for the searches that you want to be showing up for. Okay, before getting into this last part, I kind of want to take a quick step back and talk about keywords on the site, because these are really important when you're thinking about the actual content that you're putting on the site, the actual words that you're using. You know, it's important as a business owner. I'm sure you have kind of vernacular that you use and you use in your everyday, your business. But that doesn't mean that consumers are using that same language. So what I always really recommend is going and finding a free keyword research tool like Ubersuggest and putting in what you feel might be a high search volume keyword for your business. So for example here, dentist. Yeah, dentist is a really high search volume keyword. But if you start to go down a little bit, you can start to see emergency dentist. I would have never thought that would have been so high up on the list, or a pediatric dentist, or dentist for kids. So when you start to do this research, you can start to see, okay, I need to be building content around these kind of subcategories. So, dentistry may be the main one, but then you're going to have emergency dentistry, and you're going to have pediatric dentists, and so on and so forth. So it is really important to take a step back from what your perceived notions are of your business and seeing what consumers really are using in terms of keywords. And again, there are a lot of free keyword research tools out there. This one I happen to use was Ubersuggest. It's made by an SEO fellow in the industry that's really well known, and it's a good one. And I just wanted to let you guys know about that one. But if there's others out there too that you want to use, by all means do. Okay, this is a crazy looking page. And this is where it starts to get a little bit detailed. So again, I want to remind you that this will all be available afterwards. So don't try and feel like you have to soak all of this information in right now, because it will be a lot of detailed information. But what I want to do here is go through what a perfect, quote unquote, perfectly optimized local page looks like. And it does not, perfectly optimized is kind of perfectly optimized can mean a lot of different things. There can be different ways of laying this information out, but essentially what it is there's certain key components to a site that you really need to have. It may look a little bit different than this layout, and that is fine, but you want to make sure you kind of have these key elements somewhere on the page. And there's 11 of them that I really want to call out. You may want to include other information or other widgets or other images on your perfectly optimized page. But again, I just want to make sure that these things are hit on every single page. So we're going to start with the URL structure. When Google crawls your site, the first thing they crawl is your URL. So it's really important to make sure that your URL is structured in a way that is not only easy for Google to understand, but also for consumers to understand. So if you have a URL that's, bobsplumbing.com/?, string of characters, and Toronto, let's say, that means nothing to anybody. You don't know where you are in the site. Google doesn't know where they are in the site. So you really want to form a structure with your URL that's bobsplumbing.com/ Toronto licensed plumber. So not only are you getting those keywords in your URL, people understand what the content is going to be on that page, and Google understands what the content is going to be on that page. So it just acts as kind of that first entry gate into understanding what's going to be seen on this page itself. And you'll see these checklists on each of these pages. I won't get into each of these details. A lot of them are just kind of best practices, but what I want to do is just make sure that I'm kind of hitting on some of the high points here. So if you go in and do change or build your URLs in a certain way, you kind of have those best practices right in front of you. Second one here is what we call the title tag. So the title tag and the next page when I talk about the meta description are what you see when in a search result. So if somebody was typing in a licensed plumber in Toronto, you'll get that page of 10 or so results, and the title on each of those results, that is what is called the title tag. And that is, I like to think of as almost the second most important part of the page, because it's the second thing that almost Google crawls. So not only is it important to inform people what that page is going to be about, but do it using those keywords that you found in your keyword research. So not only do potential clients and customers know what they're going to see on that page, but Google also understands what is going to be seen on that page. And that's, again, really important to make sure that you're getting that click through from the search results onto your web page. Second part of that is the meta description. So you have the title, and this just dives in a little bit deeper into what is actually on the site. This is where you still use your target keywords, but maybe use some secondary ones, such as, if we're targeting for this page, licensed plumber in Toronto, you might use the word plumbing because that's close to plumber, but that may not be the target keyword that you're going for here. So making sure that you're using those keywords throughout that meta description. And one of the things I always like to include in this too is the phone number. This doesn't necessarily help you with rankings, but it does help you sometimes get more calls. If people just see a well-optimized title tag and meta description, they see that phone number, they may just be in a hurry or in a panic and just want to call and see that and dial it right away. So I like to always put the phone number right in there too. Okay, let's dive into the actual page itself, and not what we call, all of that was kind of the metadata, the back end stuff that Google is pulling into the searches. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about here is kind of harkens back to what Molly talked about in week 2 and the NAP, the name, address, phone number. At the top of the page, you want that right away. You always want to have your contact information at the top of the page so people can find it just automatically. So they aren't having to search around, where do I have to go to the contact page to find the phone number, when maybe they're on the licensed plumber page in Toronto and they just want to call. They see your page, they're like, yep, this is what I need. I just want to talk to them. I don't need to keep clicking throughout the site. So having that there and making sure that it's consistent with the other profiles you've built throughout kind of the internet. So your Google business profile should have the same phone number that's shown here at the top of your website. Same with Facebook and Bing, Yellow Pages, etc. That should all be very consistent across the internet. Little bonus tip I want to add in here is that Google recently did an algorithm update. And one of the things that's been found is that if you do make mention of the coronavirus and any health or safety protocols that you've put in place, we've noticed a little bit of bump with clients in their rankings. So a lot of times our clients will put just a little bit of a header at the top, just before kind of your website, your phone number and your email address, just saying, hey, we're here for you. We're putting in place protocols that keep you safe, your family safe, and our employees safe. Doesn't need to be anything long, but just kind of calling that out. We've noticed a little bit of a bump with clients on that. So just a little bit of a bonus tip, that as time goes by and COVID fades into history, hopefully, that will not be as important, but Google is constantly making these algorithm changes to reflect what's going on in our society and what's useful for potential clients and customers. Okay, let's keep moving down the page. So we are talking about the main header here. This is what we call in a technical term H1, header 1. It is the most important, usually the biggest in font size header on your page. This is where you absolutely want to use your keywords. So if your main keyword for that page is licensed plumber in Toronto, use it. Use it there, use it big, use it, you know, use it in a natural way. It doesn't need to feel unnatural, but make sure you do use it. And again, this should be at the very top. And typically, you know, you only want to have one of these main headers per page. Keeping on going down the page. Next is images. So, you know, most pages do have images. It helps to break up the text. It helps just to have a really nice flow. When it comes to kind of the SEO side of things for images, make sure you use one that's relevant to the content of the page. Make sure you save the file using keywords before you upload it to your website and insert it into the page. And then also make sure for the alt image text, use those target keywords too. So, you know, if this is an image of a plumber underneath a sink in the kitchen, make sure you title it as, you know, licensed plumber in Toronto under sink or something like that. That not only describes what the image is, but also uses those target keywords. And then, as with every site, you want to make sure you have a compelling call to action, get people to click right away. Make sure this is just right there at the top of the screen when this page loads, so that they can see the header and then they can see that call to action where you just click it and you can get that business or get that free estimate or get those people to contact you right away. And now we're getting into kind of the main part of the site, the part where you are going to be using a lot of keywords, a lot of subheaders, and a lot of just, you know, words themselves to help fill out the page and to help also Google to understand what this page is about. So in this body text, I like to say, you know, usually, you know, filling it up with target keywords and then the secondary keywords. So going back to like what we were talking about in the meta description, if your target keyword for a site is licensed plumber in Toronto, make sure you use that throughout it. But then also pivot a little bit to using words like plumbing, plumbers, plumbing services, but stuff that kind of rounds out that target keyword, because people are searching not only just for plumber, they do want plumbing services, they do want, you know, plumbing installation. So make sure you're using kind of all of those other secondary keywords that surround that main one, because not only does it help to capture search people coming through search results that are using slightly different variations, but also just kind of helps to complement for Google the licensed plumber keyword as well. You know, you want to make sure that you have enough content here too, so that you can use those primary and secondary keywords enough. There's certain guidelines, kind of best practices that I've outlined over here on the side. Don't be too daunted by them. They are just kind of some guidelines for every site. It can be slightly different. I may say aim for 1,600 words, but half of that may work too. And a lot of times this is just it's a trial and error. So you may build this page, and it's not popping the way you want it to. So maybe you go in and you add another section type thing. So you know, don't be too overwhelmed by it, but just know that a lot of this is a little bit of an art and a science and voodoo and magic, and it's a little bit of trial and error. The other big part about this, though, and this is really, really important, and I cannot emphasize this enough, do not copy and paste from another source. Make sure it's unique content. Google will flag your site and pull you down from the rankings if they think your site has been lifted from another site. So absolutely use your own words. It may have a flow that's similar to another site, because if you are a plumber, you know, I bet every plumber in Toronto is, you know, providing the same services. So there may be somewhat of kind of the same language that's used and stuff, but just make sure you do not lift the exact same content. And then before moving on to the next page, the other thing I want to mention here too is when we were talking about the main header, the H1, use that once in the site. But when you get into this body text, be sure to use kind of some secondary headers too. So H2s, H3s, use secondary keywords in there. And that helps to break up those 1,600 words for each page too, and makes it easier for people just to skim. Okay, moving on. So have a contact form on this page. Again, provide as many places on this page to make it easy for people to contact you. The fewer pages that they have to click to get your information or to get in contact with you, the better. They want it, people, again, they think their time's short. We want everything instantaneously this day and age. So have it all right there contained in that page. Don't force people to go somewhere else to get that contact from them. And I thought this was an interesting one. Don't ask for a phone number. People hate giving their phone numbers out. A lot of people just like to go by email these days. So I like to call that one out, because I think sometimes as business owners, we think that getting a phone number is going to help get that business, but a lot of times it actually becomes more annoying to people than anything else. So, okay, and now the NAP, again, as I've mentioned, going back to week 2 with Molly, make sure you have this instance of your name, address, phone across the site. Putting it in the footer is very common, and make sure it's consistent with all your other business profiles. But absolutely make sure it's there, and make sure it's on every page of your site too. And I am actually going to throw this one over to Chris, but this is kind of social proof. This is, where you have your reviews and your testimonials from past clients. It's really important to have on these pages. And I will let Chris kind of talk about that a little bit more. I won't give away what he's going to say. So Chris, you go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Jess. I appreciate it. And I love that you're using these maps, because I think it's so easy in SEO to be like, oh, your H1 tag and your title tag and your meta tag and all that. And people are like, by what and the who and the where. And this just kind of lays it all out so you can visually see where it's at, which is important. And as we all know, social proof is so important, right? When we go buy anything on Amazon, right? Sure, we get excited about the product description, but the first thing we do is we go to the reviews and we check out, what people had to say in terms of complaints, and then the good things, right? And so I think making it really easy to have people have access to that on your website is important, right? Maybe they read some reviews when they're in the process of finding you, like John was talking about last week, in terms of kind of this buyer's journey and how they kind of loop back and through all these things. And you just want to make sure that your reviews are always there as kind of hey, just a reminder, we are a great company to do business with. A lot of people have done business with us before, and you should trust us. And I'll get to the next slide here in a second. But what you need to have is that social proof on your website and easily accessible. There's a lot of, I would say just about every business that's using their brain has their reviews kind of on that first page, and it's either, in a website sort of widget or plugin or whatnot that's kind of carouseling through. You can get a free one on, if you go to WordPress.com and upload some sort of plugin. I'm sure Squarespace has had it. I've just never checked myself. We provide one with our service, right? So it's just an easy code that you can copy onto your website, and it can showcase all of your good reviews and kind of cycle through it, because people just want to it's not that they want to deep dive per se, but they just want to be reminded that people do love that service, and they're excited, because they wouldn't be on your website if they weren't excited about it. But gone are the years where you could literally have somebody have handwritten a testimonial for you, and then you type it out and put it on your website, right? What blows my mind is when people will have those written testimonials, and they'll say, 2001, and you're like, man, it's been almost 2 decades since that testimonial was written. Where's your business at now? And so it's important to have recent reviews. And I kind of covered that, in the first week, which is kind of cool. This is kind of coming full circle here, is that 70% of consumers want to see reviews from the last month, right? Which is just it blows my mind, but makes more and more sense each day with how fast business is moving. And you think about COVID and how many businesses have shut down and how many are not going to reopen. It's important before somebody goes and trusts that business to make sure that they're open. Why not have a COVID alert that lets people know that you are open for business? And so this just kind of highlights those most recent reviews and just gets those out in front of them. But the important thing about using a widget is that if they're pulling them from Google or Yelp or Facebook or Angels or whatever, that you've got validation from a third party, right? So it's one thing to kind of type up on your website some testimonials, but people don't necessarily trust those as much as they used to back in the day. And now if you're showcasing reviews that you have on these other platforms, it just gives a level of credibility that can't be done by typing some content on your website. So it's important to have some sort of a review plugin or widget that's demonstrating these on an ongoing basis. And so, Jess, if you wouldn't mind flipping to the next slide here. This was, Bright Local did another study. They're always doing studies about reviews and the importance here and other facets of SEO and stuff like this. And so in this, what they were doing is they were showing consumers landing pages with reviews and without reviews and trying to determine like, hey, what kind of an impact does having reviews on your website do? And you can see that there is a significant increase for those that have reviews on their website in terms of building that social proof, that trust, and that willingness to reach out to not just to trust the business, but to go and contact the business, right? And so when we're talking about all of this stuff, it's all these little things that add up to creating a lot of impact in your business, right? And as marketers, we're constantly trying to figure out, hey, what increases conversions? What's the thing that's going to kind of, get you to that next level? And if you think about, just the difference between 74% and 62%, right there, you've got, what is that? That's 12%. Imagine if you had a 12% increase in your customers this year alone by just including your reviews on your website, right? I mean, that would be a game changer for most businesses if they're doing double-digit growth. And so it's just little things like these that compound and have just a very positive effect in your business. And so definitely something to note and worthwhile. So yeah, thanks, Jess, for the opportunity to just kind of share the impact there.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, one of the things that, just to kind of finish this off, that Chris mentioned is that, a lot of these things seem small, having a call to action button at the top of the page, having a header with a target keyword right there, having the contact form. They individually may seem very small, but they really do add up. And that's kind of the same thing with SEO and your search engine rankings, having a fast site or making sure you're using H2s and H3s. Like, again, that may seem small, but it really starts to add up and it starts to have a snowball effect. So, so it is important to kind of get all of these things incorporated in the site so that you are, not only putting your best foot forward, but also kind of have the best chance of attracting these clients or potential customers. So, with that, there are some ways that we are going to be able to help you too, not only just having these webinars and resources for free, but we want to help you kind of at least, get the base foundation laid for you guys. So at WormWood, if you need to help get your Google business profile claimed and optimized, reach out to us. If you want to check your SEO ranking for certain keywords that you're curious about to see what you look like compared to your competitors, reach out to us. Chris, he will help you get new reviews this week for free. Just kind of showing you what the power of getting these reviews is and how easy it is too. And then John at Reach Local, if you need a free consultation on how to set up Google AdWords, he's there to help too. Head to our website, digitalguerrilla.marketing, and you will get all of this information and the sign up information, the contact information, and reach out to us and let us help you. During this kind of, with everything going on, the uncertainty, we want you to succeed and put your best foot forward, because I think ultimately that means we all succeed. So with that, let's get into some Q&A. I'm sure there's a lot of questions. That was a lot of detailed content, and there's a lot of different nuances especially when it comes to a website. So let's get into it.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and work over the Q&A here as kind of a moderator. By the way, my name's Woody Herzog, and I'm with WormWood as well as Jessica and Molly. we've got a couple really good questions. This first one is for John Howard. And John, as you recall, is our pay-per-click specialist from Reach Local. And from Denny, restaurant bar marketing manager. Does any of this help with pay-per-click or the Google AdWords campaigns?
Good question. So SEO and pay-per-click have a small synergy there. But in terms of like, if you have a strong SEO campaign, it's not going to help out your pay-per-click page positioning. What will help out your page positioning in pay-per-click is your quality score. So if you have an up-to-date website, if you have fresh content, if prospects spend a large amount of time on your website when they visit, that'll help out your quality score, which in turn will help out lowering your cost per click and raising your page positioning. But in terms of having a synergy there, SEO doesn't quite help out pay-per-click, but I believe pay-per-click helps out SEO in a few ways, but Jessica might be able to answer that.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think it's exactly that. It's a there's a synergy, but it's not necessarily a direct correlation.
Correct.
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah. From Carrie, small retail business owner, how many of these optimized pages should I have on the site? That one I think is for Jessica.
Yeah, good question. So the way I like to think about it is depends on how many services you provide. So let's go back to the plumber instance. So you have plumbing services, you might have HVAC services, and you may have like kind of 4 or 5 broader big target kind of services that you provide. So you want to make sure that you have a page for each of those major services. From there, under each of those kind of broader services, you can drill down a little bit more like I was showing. If you have plumbing, you can get into emergency plumbing, plumbing installation, plumbing repair, but make sure you do have at least one page for each of those major services that you provide.
Cool. All right, let's see, we've got a couple more here. And from Henry Jr. Hi, when talking about optimizing pages on our site, does this apply to pages like contact pages?
That is a good question. No, not really. So contact pages are very much supporting pages. So you do not need to build out these kind of major pages for that purpose, for the contact page. For the contact page, keep it clean, keep it simple, make it easy for people to find your phone number and contact form and address and maybe a map, but you do not need to go to the lengths of having 1,600 words on your contact page. So that's a good question, but yeah, no, with those supporting pages, they're not as important. You can, again, make sure they're organized well and function properly, but.
Yeah, good, yeah. So our final question here, it's kind of symptomatic of how complex SEO is and how we wind in the reviews, pay-per-click, all of it. But someone writes, an anonymous, this seems like a lot to do to my website. If I were to focus on one thing, what would it be? And I'll partially answer this and turn it over to Jessica, but one of the things that we wanted to do in offering this webinar is offer some helpful things to our small businesses affected by COVID, which is to give you kind of a free profile update of your Google Places or Google Maps profile, run a ranking report. Amongst Chris Malini is willing to give some free reviews for a week, I believe. John Howard's going to consult and share a lot of data that would be helpful. But on this question, it's going to be really hard to answer that. And anytime we look at a new website from a client, we will look at the biggest and brightest fire. It could be the page speed. It's like, oh my gosh, it's 12 seconds. That was what we'd hit first. Or we may see on a different page, website, the keyword they want to rank for isn't even mentioned. So I think it's going to vary by websites, but the reason I bring up the free offerings is that would be a great question to ask us if you go ahead and reach out. We'll look at your site and give you that so that you're not guessing, because there's 200 signals that go into determining who goes on page one of Google. So Jessica, do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
I completely agree. varies so much from person to person, industry to industry, business to business, website to website. It can be really hard to say just kind of off the top. If you do think you have, a site that's loading fast and is mobile friendly, if I would say, I'm just saying, if this sounds like your situation, my thing I would focus on then is making sure that you build out pages for your main services. But again, that's, without looking at any individual's site or individual business's site, that would be my first just kind of standard answer. But again, it is absolutely going to be varied from business to business and site to site, because every single one functions differently. Even if, we have 10 websites that are on the WordPress platform, within those 10 sites, depending on the themes you use and the plugins you have and the other services that may be added onto it, it's all going to be functioning different, even within one platform. So yeah, that is it's a loaded question, to say the least. But yeah, we are happy to, do a quick look and let what's that biggest low hanging fruit that you have right now.
Right. Yep. Perfect. Makes sense. I agree. So that was our final question. And Chris, do you want to take us out?
Sure. First off, thank you all for joining us throughout these last 4 weeks. It's been awesome. And thank you for the opportunity of allowing us to pay it forward, to give it back to our community. When we were kind of brainstorming, because all three of these companies work very closely together and share a lot of clients as a result, we were just kind of thinking, hey, what can we do to do our part? And what we want to do is just kind of lay a foundation for each and every one of you to be able to kind of move out of this feeling a little bit more confident, a little bit more certain about the outlook of your business, and just putting some things into place that can definitely help with that. And so, in terms of building out that content, we wanted something that was easy, digestible. So please feel free to go to the portal to download all the stuff. Again, the password for that is 2020. So just go to digitalguerrilla.marketing and then click on login in the upper right-hand corner. And then the password is just 2020. And I'll be honest with you, it's not a password for any particular reason other than we didn't want to get spammed by a bunch of bots crawling the website. So please feel free to share that with other fellow businesses. All of these different video recordings are in there, so you can go watch them if maybe you're just joining us this week. So there's a lot of actionable content in there. And to what Woody was saying earlier, please understand that none of this, this opportunity or these offers are a sales pitch. You're not going to get pitched anything. We just want to be a resource for you. So if you do have questions, we're a resource to each and every one of our clients. And so we're here to help you kind of navigate all that. And when it makes sense, hopefully you'll think of us. But if not, our feelings aren't hurt. We just want to do our part to kind of pay it forward in the business community. So just excited for each and every one of you. I know that a lot of the different states around the country are kind of opening up, so things are getting exciting. Business is coming back. I know that we've all seen a big surge in business, and we're super excited about that because we just love helping each and every one of you that's on this call and beyond. And so our invitation again is just to plug in, realize that we're here as resources. You've seen us face to face, and that's kind of cool. And hopefully in the future, we'll meet you in person. So again, you know where the website is. Please log in, grab all the free goodies, share as much as you can with other people to help them out. And I just want to say thank you, John. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Molly. And thank you, Woody, for your time over the last couple of weeks of putting all this together. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes of building out the website and the content and making sure that we're rehearsing and we sound good and we're articulate and all that kind of good stuff. So a lot of time devoted to this above and beyond what you're already doing to keep your businesses running. So thank you guys so much. And with that, we'll take it out. Thank you guys so much. And we just hope that you have a blessed continued or second half of the year. I think that's kind of exciting as we kind of kick off the second half. Let's make it way better than the first. So
we had one more question from Tim. So one last question. Will you guys be doing more webinars in the future? So this snuck in right in the last 60 seconds. So you want to answer that?
That is good food for thought. I think we'll have to get a roundtable on that, but that is something we've been toying with. And if we do, we will definitely be sure to reach out and let you guys know so that we can kind of keep you up to date with everything digital.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. We'll see you guys all later.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.